Hello, my name is Boz, and today on BozTech we're going to be looking at the Nintendo Labo VR, but not just the Labo VR itself, but actually the garage, and just doing a little bit of a tutorial on how to get a few basic functions set up so you can begin creating the more fun bits of a game. Right, so as you can see, we're into Labo, so we're just going to go into the Discover, we're going to go into the Toy-Con Garage VR. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a project that I've been working on, and we're going to have a look and see whether there's anything in particular that we can demonstrate how to do. So there's a couple of things here that are a little bit hacky. They're not possibly the best way of doing these things, but we're going to have a look at them anyway. You can see how that I've worked them, and maybe this gives you a little bit of a head start on having your own ideas with it. So first things first, let's have a look at the camera setup. So if you haven't set up a person yet, set up a person. It's all that really matters. So what I'll do is I will recreate this over here. So we won't be able to actually, because the camera's really hard to have the one of each camera, I believe. So we've got our person here, and all we've literally done is connect this camera target sensor to it. We've changed the horizontal tracking and the vertical tracking just to look at it a little bit differently from the tracking of it, and we've also positioned it in such a way that it's not exactly bang on the character, and we've connected it to the Y, and Y points at the top of his head, I believe. So if we now close that out, so yeah, that's literally just connected. All we've done is connected there, and on the other side of things we've connected a camera position. So this one is positioning in the world. It shows where the camera is going to be, and in the other one obviously we've got the angle of the camera, essentially what it's looking at, and it's basically just set to follow the guy's head, which isn't perfect. There's a little bit of blurriness there and things. They've done it in much cleverer ways in their things, but it's different. You know, it works, but it's a little bit hacky. It's one of those things. So what we have here is obviously we've got our camera position. So I've left the tracking exactly as it is. When I first booted it up, I've set an offset distance so that we're back a bit and also up a bit, so that we've got the overall sort of distance from it. So I'll show you what this looks like when we load in the game. So here we are. So apologies if there's any super spin. That's because I've got drift on my Joy-Con, but we'll persevere. So what we've got here is just following him at a set distance, and basically he can run around and it'll follow him. Now I'll show you what happens if we delete either of these. So if we delete, say, what's this one, the camera position, if we delete that and go back in, you can see it follows him from an angled perspective, but as soon as we go over here we can't see what's going on. So we'll go back into our 2D editing, go up here, hit undo. That'll undo that so that we don't have to change any of the settings again. And on this one, the camera target, I'll show you what this one's doing. So basically this one, it will follow his position. It's probably directly above his head sort of area, but unfortunately I can't actually see what he's doing. So yeah, I can get him over the ramp still, but it's not exactly an ideal game. So we'll undo that, and there we go up there. So we've got a few different functions for our character here. Now I'll just rotate this around the correct way so that you guys can read a little bit of what's going on. He's actually rotated that way because that means he faces the right direction, because it's kind of a weird system. So first things first, we've got our up and down on our control stick. Now I've got it set up as the left control stick, as you'll see here, the left Joy-Con's control stick, and as I press up and down it will move this along. So that's me pressing up move pressing down. So it does the same thing, but it basically gives us an output here that tells us that if when this is pressed up and down, do something else. So I've set that to do forward and back. Now the movement speed is all set here. So if I want to make him faster, I can do that. So I can literally crank that up to 4. That's as fast as it goes, apparently. And now he's Speedy Gonzalez. So maybe we'll dial that back to 1. Oh, not 0. Let's click on it and we'll just put it back up to 1. There we are. Right, okay, and we can do the same thing with our jump strength. So we've got our person set up as visible. Obviously, we want them to be visible. Got them set up as solid. Got them set as destructible. Don't have them set up as destructive because I don't want them to destroy anything at this particular point in time. I just want to be able to use them to do things. So for our other controls, for the same control stick, still the left, but for other controls we need the left and right. So got left set up, that's me pressing left, that's right. So it's the same output again, and it's an analog output. And all we've done is put this literally into our character again. So that's on the right and left. So this is the absolute simplest stuff to do. And the same again for our B button. So the B button is our jump button. So my character jumps. So this makes it nice and easy, just literally put it on there. There's a jump button, and that's as easy as it gets. So I've actually got a couple of other functions in here though that are a little bit more complicated. Now, I looked into this because someone was asking about it on Reddit, whether it could be done, and I have to admit I struggled as well. What I ended up doing was actually pretty hacky. It's really, really an unusual way of doing this, but as you will notice, if my Joy-Con can stop misbehaving for a second. Here we are, right, there you are. I can do a little jump, but oh, I can't do it again. Oh yes, I can. So it's got a little delay on it. So 3-second delay between dashes. The reason for that is if I take off that delay, you can literally just jump across the entire map. Doesn't make much of a game. So it's just a little rule there that it says basically. So I'll explain exactly how it works. So when I press R, so it's me pressing R, if this value equals 1, it compares this here. If it equals 1, so I've got the constant here, so that's set up there. So if this equals this, it does this action. So what this action is I've put a trigger eyes here. I've put 2 ball launchers right behind the character. So these are attached to the back of the character. As you'll see, they're connected from there, and they should connect to the other side. And I've got the ball direction going behind him. So I'll tell you what, I'll turn these on as visible because currently they're invisible. So they're not set up as destructive or destructible. They are solid and movable. So there may be some ways that you can make them interact with things in the world, but essentially it doesn't really matter. I haven't noticed anything whilst I've been playing. I don't think you're going to be making huge games in this anyway. So what you'll see is, so that's my forward firing ball, which you can destroy yourself with. So and this is what it's done. It's got a couple of cubes that spawn out the back, and because of these cubes, now these cubes they are persistent. At the moment I haven't set them to destroy, so occasionally you'll land on top of them and you'll be stuck, but it's not too noticeable when they're invisible, to be honest. It just feels like a bit of a bug, but I'm going to set them so they despawn after a certain amount of time, but right now that's not necessary. So there we are, and that basically gives you enough of a boost, having those items launched into your back, that you can do it. So that resets the level. So what I've got set up here is, this is my lava, so this is my obstacle, and I've got it set up so that it makes a noise. So it's making the noise, and it is displaying the damage icon, and it's also resetting the game, so it takes you back to the beginning. Now this works on both sides here, so I've got the left-hand side as I've demonstrated there, and this right-hand block here. Now I'll turn off all the lines and everything at some point, but right now I'm still making the game, so it's not really worthwhile. When I'm showing people this, I will turn off the lines so that I can, but it's easier to work with them there. So I've got a touchpad there that basically activates those effects, and I'll show you a little bit of how that works right after I've finished explaining about these launch objects. So these launch objects are again linked to the back of this person. So I've got the whole number generator here. So when that equals 1, it will go up there and fire, but after 3 seconds, this resets back down to 0. So you can hit it over and over again. So it can get up to however much you can get within 3 seconds. Get to 10 there or whatever. But after 3 seconds, it will then allow you to come back around. It will reset this to 0. And it's just a clever little way. I'm sure there's a more complicated way of doing it, but this way worked well enough for me, and that gave us a cooldown essentially. So we were able to set a cooldown there, so that ability can't be constantly used. So for our other thing, we've got, so this is the shoot button. So that's my Y button. I've got the steps as Y. So literally to go in here and do this, just hit trigger and then Y on there. Makes everything else is selected. I've got it set up as its punch, so it's firing like a fireball. And I've got it set up as a launch object, and this launch object is set up in the opposite way to the way that our previous one is, that's firing behind us. It's set up as spheres as well, and it fires from the front. So you can see that in action here. Firing is, so it does a punch, and he's firing his fireballs, and obviously I can kill myself with it. So that's useful. Anyway, so as I say, these boxes, I am going to set them up as a way of despawning, but when it's invisible, you don't even notice them. I didn't even really think about what they'd look like visible, but that's completely unnoticeable when you turn these invisible. Now, I don't know if there must be a way to make them disappear a short time after. So maybe on trigger of that timer of 3 seconds. So just trying to think if I was to solve this now. So if I was to say on trigger of this, so all the rest of my code shouldn't be affected. Trigger a timer for 3 seconds off here, and basically have no. Okay, so just trying to think. So I suppose you could have it so it triggers a destroy object. No, this one works by, where is the destroy anyway? In fact, probably the better idea is to not set these up. I wonder if you could set this up with an extending object rather than these launch objects. I hadn't really thought of that. That might work better. And I assume they must time out after some time. Ooh. Careful not to kill myself. So, because not that careful not to kill myself, right? So, if I do this a lot, presumably, so I'm just going to fill it up as quick as I can with the 3 second timer. Is there anything to jump on now? No. Let's turn the visibility back on. and we can see just how long these items last, because if it doesn't last too long, it might not really be worthwhile for the simple kind of games that you've got here. So there we are. I've got a couple of boxes. Let's see, a couple more boxes. And it's actually quite funny looking at it, especially with the two different coloured boxes. I didn't set that deliberately to do that. It's kind of funny that it's ended up that way. So how long does it take before all of these disappear? Oh, that's my Joy-Con misbehaving again. So yeah, that is an interesting problem. I'm sure there's another way of getting that sort of speed boost. Maybe just have an extending object come out the back of you, just to push you forward in a quick motion. This was the quickest way I found to solve the guy's problem on Reddit. So it does work essentially. And like I say, when it's on the back there, you don't notice it quite so much when it's invisible, but when it's visible, it shows a bigger issue, because obviously you're going to end up, if you're using it a lot, and also you shouldn't be spamming it all the time, and you can walk through them, but obviously it's going to slow you down. There's a little bit of movement there, changes your movement, so probably best not to. And also technically, so where we've got these walls set up, so these walls are set up so that you can't jump over them, but this is just me breaking my own game a second. Oh, behave, Joy-Con. Oh god, no. Sorry if you suffer from motion sickness. So obviously Labo VR doesn't cause motion sickness, to be honest with you, but the spinning round is pretty much, I'm beginning to feel it, so need a new Joy-Con. Unfortunately, that is not good. Right, okay, so yeah, basically I think that if I stand, and what happens if they fire into each other? Oh, I suppose they don't fire into each other. Ah! Stop it. Right. So yeah, you can get on top of these. So you can see what I'm trying to do there. I'm trying to get off over the wall, which you can do over here anyway, but it's obviously just a little demo at the moment to see what I can do. But yeah, let's have a look at these other pieces. So let's have a look at what's causing this. So this block here is obviously, this part here isn't actually the trigger. Until you get to that white box there, the sort of invisible box, there's obviously no trigger there, so it's useful to know that that's obviously, but there we are, we can see that I can go through that block. So all I did was set a block as visible but not solid for that, and that has caused my lava. So I think that this game is a bit simple in some of the things, it's very complicated in others. I'd like to see a way of sharing these creations, because I'm sure someone else would create something even better than what I can. So, but what we've got there is, as you can see, there's the damage marker, there's the sound, and let's get out of this mode quickly, because yeah, I'm beginning to feel a bit motion sickness. Right, okay, so how are these objects working? So these are our walls, these are the boxes we're jumping up on. This is the other box. These boxes here are our lava. So what I wouldn't mind seeing is an ability to rename things. That'd be really useful. I hope Nintendo can add that at some point. So as I say, best practice is to lock things as you go. So this is the touch sensor. I will lock that as well. So what we've got here, let's have a look at a couple of different things we've got. So first things first, we've got our touch sensor, which is the invisible box that we were looking at. So we've got it set up so it is sensing when a person gets there. It's set up as hold. I believe it could also be trigger. I don't believe that'd have any effect on what I've got here. Obviously the size and position of things are going to depend on where you need it. I've got the connection point set up as this, and I've got it connected to, I believe, the other block. No, in fact, it's not even connected to the other block. This one appears to be. Let's disconnect that and see if it makes any difference when we go and testing this. But yeah, so essentially what I've got there is this is the touch sensor output. So that's basically a trigger. And what we have here is damage effect. And it's a trigger. So for the damage effect, we literally go in here, effect camera damage, and that'll give you that little thing. And we've also got, so this here is a sound effect. Now this is essentially just the same thing as what the notes is, but the way they've done it is actually they've got a little shortcut menu to this particular one. So if you go into here, you go into here, go to effect, sound effects, it will give you a little sound effect here. So what it will essentially do is, I think this is set up as buzz or bam maybe, and it might be bam actually, I think it's probably bam. What was it set as actually? So let's have a look. Oh, you can't see there, so yeah, it doesn't actually tell you. Okay, but it's set up as one of those noises anyway. I'm sure you can go through. So I've got a retry set up here as well. So this block triggers the retry. So it doesn't actually kill the character, which you can set up, but essentially I've got it set up so they fall in the lava, you trigger the start of the level again. So what we have here is the Irish shot transition effect, and that gives you that Mario Odyssey sort of zoom in, zoom out sort of thing where you can get it, and it's exactly the same on this side. So basically what you've got here is, this is a fail state. With these two boxes to jump between, there is a obstacle. So let's test. So we've got control of the character, we've got our missiles, try not to die, and we've got our launcher that launches across here. Essentially that allows you to get around. So yeah, let's see if, yeah, so that's still working. So that connection was doing absolutely nothing for this game. But yeah, I mean, if you turn off the visibility of these, it doesn't notice too much, and it works as a method. As I say, it doesn't seem to disappear. So that's a little odd. And I would like to find a better way of doing this. But this was just one very sort of hacky way I found of getting that solution sorted. So that's all for now. We're just had a look at a couple of different functions here, just to show you a little bit of the background into this. I'm not going to save this at all. I'm going to undo everything we've done and go back to my original. Oh, nope. Cancel. So yeah, there we are. Essentially everything there is all reset. So what I think of this editor, I think it's very interesting. It's not perfect. You've got your 3D editor as well, but I haven't figured out how you're able to move around. Figured out how you can move other things around, so I can move my character here and there and everywhere and whatnot, but it doesn't really seem to do very much. I can't seem to move around and look at my walls or my levels. It doesn't seem to let me do that. Oh yeah, I do want it, so there we are. So I can leave this as it is now, and that will allow me to go back to this and work on it a bit more. But yeah, just thought I'd show you a couple of different little hacky things that's sort of how they work. So I'm reasonably proud of the trigger for delay. That was a little bit of coding that I wasn't. This isn't anything to do with my game. Essentially, this was me trying to create the Mario theme in blocks. I wasn't able to get it to work. I'm not very musically inclined, so unfortunately, even with the tab, I wasn't really able to get anything going there. I'm sure someone out there has done it and is doing very well with it, but it's a shame we can't share these creations a little bit more directly. But obviously, this gives you an idea of how you can implement things in your own game. So in terms of the launchers for the jump, dash, like I say, it works quite well. It doesn't show so much when it's not visible, but obviously the issues are still going to be there. You're still going to be able to get out of bounds with it and things. And if you don't have that delay in there, then definitely that out of bounds issue is going to be there. But I don't know if an extending object would give you the kind of velocity that you need here. So it's worth bearing in mind there that that is a solution if you can't find another. Now, I tried to make it work originally with there's a teleport, I believe. And so I'll do a teleport, teleport object. Ooh. There's a teleport object, special object here. But I couldn't figure out a way of making it work. So I know you can put a sensor on the front of your character and have it spawn on the sensor in terms of where your entrance is. But then your exit, I don't know how you'd make that work. You'd have to go a certain distance in front of you, which is obviously its own issues. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of things there that it really should let you do. It doesn't let you run things to certain things in necessarily the most intuitive way, but there's obviously a lot of logic here, and smarter people than me will have figured out different ways of doing it, but unfortunately there isn't much documentation, so it's hard to recommend as a child learning tool for that reason. I think you know, I mean, like I said, I've never done any programming, so it's also one other really annoying thing is why can't I move around without dragging on the background? I've got a stick. I can rotate the stick, I can do whatever. It doesn't do anything. So basically it's got like 2 action buttons on it. So it's like, well, Nintendo, these Joy-Cons have got loads of buttons. Even if I'm only using one, there's only this one and that one being used. And so there's only the R and the A being used. Doesn't work very well when you can't see me, obviously, me pointing that out. But yeah, it's a bit of an issue. I mean, I've got the X, Y, and B. The downwards click, this start button is used for the menu, so that's not usable. But you've even got the S and R that you can use there in the game. But why can't I use them when I'm editing? It doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, it feels like obviously you got your down click on your thing is to activate and recalibrate your stick, so there is that. But yeah, I just think why waste that potential? Because I can't move. If I'm here, I'm over an object, I can't move around. Suddenly I can't move. Whereas if my stick moved me, it wouldn't be an issue. But if I want to connect something here to something over there, I have to be zoomed either way out and then try and aim for something here, or set up teleports. There is teleports that wormholes that allow you to move things around from one area to another very quickly. But yeah, I'm just like, why Nintendo can't I suddenly move my stuff around? It doesn't make any sense to me. I just want to be able to move from here to here in a seamless way and have it not affect me. But yeah, that's just my thoughts and a little bit of a beginner's tutorial for you guys to show you a couple of different functions, a couple of different things you can do with it. If you've got any thoughts on it, please feel free to like and subscribe. And that's all for today. Positive.